Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to Married at First Sight, Season 15, Episode 13. So let's just dive straight into Christian and Mitch. And I actually have something to say about both of these jokers. So, let me see, what notes I've written down. So, at the beginning of the episode, one of the scenes that comes up is Christian talking to Mitch's sister-in-law. And I remember Mitch's sister-in-law at the brunch after the wedding. And she was telling Christian what a challenging time that she had, trying to get to know Mitch and just working through the relationship to be at a good, place that they're at, right now. And let her know how extra and special Mitch can be. And she basically kind of did that, this time as well. I actually thought that some of the insight that she tried to give to Christian was grounded, no fluff. She wants both of them to be happy, but then she also wants them to be realistic, at the same time. So she said that she doesn't think that Mitch really understands how to deliver things verbally in a way so that other people can accept his message. So I'm sure that she's had some input into him being able to be himself, reflective and accepting of criticism as he is today. So her influence, I think, has really been positive, for him. And what I'm seeing, I'm sure before he met her, he was something completely extra special and different. So she just really encouraged him, to really be honest, with each other. And Christian was nodding, through the whole thing. Like, yep, yeah, yep. So my thing is, if she really heard what his sister-in-law was saying to her, then I don't understand why she got so upset about Mitch asking her sister advice on how to bring up a sensitive topic to Christian without her getting mad and without her discounting what he's saying as something negative, but that this is just something that he wants to communicate. But he wants to do it in a way that's respectful. And if she has insight on how to help him do that, then that's what he was asking her for. So instead, her sister took it as a negative, and then she communicated it to Christian as a negative. And then instead of Christian talking to Mitch about it, then she turns around and go and talk to everybody else, about it, the other women. And then, when Mitch is being hit with all this incoming, later in the episode, when he says that he was blindsided, he's right. He was blindsided. And for Christian to sit up and act like the biggest baby about this, when I remember her saying that she wasn't a makeup girl, that she was all natural and free, beach comber, like Mitch. And I posted this in my uploads. So you can go back and look at it, for yourself. And I understand that people evolve and change. But Christian has been wearing makeup the whole time. And if Mitch has seen her going to the grocery store or going to the post office or just walking down the street in her makeup, then he has a right to question this, because you can't say stuff like that to a person like Mitch. He hears stuff like that. It's like a child. Like you tell a child you're going to take them to the zoo, or that they're going to have a birthday party, or you're going to, do this, that, and the third. That stuff sticks into their head like glue. And they're not going to forget that you said that. And for her to say that, understanding and communicating that she understood where Mitch was coming from when he said that to her, for her now to go all these, weeks later and try to act like she's offended and this is the first time she'd heard this, and he can't accept this, that, and the third. about her. And it really hurt. It really hurt. Yeah, all of that, it was just too much, for me. When she wants to act all, busted and broken up about something, I just can't. Every time she's tried to do this, these past few weeks, it just hasn't come across to me as something, that's genuine or, something that Mitch should be trusting. I saw it, that episode where I put on that clip, Mitch, Christian doesn't have your back, and that's all I've been seeing. Ever since she was like at that dinner party, well, when does Christian get to be Christian? She been being Christian ever since. So the Christian that we've been looking at, honeymoon up until that dinner party, was a different Christian. Not even honeymoon. I would say post wedding. From the dance, from the time that Mitch and her was dancing with each other on the dance floor at the reception, up until that dinner party where she was like, "Where does Christian get to be Christian?" I don't think Christian has been Christian, and Mitch has been Mitch the entire time. Hate him or love him, that joker has been himself from the time he showed up at the altar to get married, to her, on the dance floor, not wanting to wear that stupid shirt, talking about the ocean at the party and all that, where he did the space, thing where they didn't have plastic in the future. Mitch has been Mitch this entire time. So, I just don't. I don't feel the tears for Christian that, everybody else feels. And then, to be fair, Mitch, I mean, dude, what are you thinking about? If her wearing makeup is a minor or a superficial thing, then why even bring it up in the first place? If it's something you messed up during the honeymoon, when you couldn't put a bridle or tie up your tongue, you couldn't glue your lips shut, and you had to go and tell this woman that you weren't attracted to her, only days later to turn around and be attracted to her. This is a trap that you set up for yourself. You can't be wishy-washy like that and then think a woman is going to sit there and respond to you. So if it's something important that you got to tell your truth, or you're going to have to keep that powder dry, cousin, and you're going to have to come out with something to her when it actually means something. Pick your battles. So if her wearing makeup is something that you can live with, even though you would prefer something else, then, dude, you just going to have to live with it. I mean, you see that you don't have the confidence of her sister. I heard it the first time I heard the conversation. I was like, oh, this took a turn. Because before he said and asked her that question, they actually had a pretty good conversation. And then once it came out of his mouth, it turned into a different direction. So if I heard it, then he should have been able to hear it too. And it would have helped him if he had just gone to Christian and said something to her before her sister called. Because he sees that the loyalty that Christian has is with her sister and not with her husband. So, while she's being all, judgmental and pointing a finger and accusatory, towards Mitch, if she gets married in the future and her sister puts her nose inside of her, business, and it's a whole different situation, then what? Is she going to tell her sister to go mind her own business? Because, that's what they'll do. If they're going to be with that person, no matter what it is that you got to say, you could come and tell them the juiciest thing that they said or something that you saw them doing. And if she wants to be with him, she's going to be with him. And there's nothing that her sister is going to be able to say to her that's going to change her mind. So then what is her sister, going to do? I mean, boundaries. And I think Christian wants a way out. That's just what I see. And I could be wrong, and I'm cool with being wrong. That's just, that's just what I get. And that's just the ugly truth. That was an aptly named episode. And so, yeah, so I said that Christian should have discussed it with him first, and he was blindsided. And so she had a problem when he asked for advice to try to verbalize and deliver it, in a way that would be constructive and helpful, to them both. She didn't like it when he actually tried to go and get that advice. So it's like damned if he does and damned, if he doesn't. And then another thing that kind of made me wonder, because I was like, when I first watched it, I was like, well, why is Mitch? Why is he even talking about this? Why is he even asking her? So, after the whole "you told my sister this" kind of thing, when I watched it this next time, and I actually listened to the conversation again between Christian and sister-in-law, it made me wonder if the sister-in-law actually went back and said something to Mitch. Because if she did, it would make more sense to me as to why Mitch would even bring that up as a topic of conversation when he knows it's a sensitive subject, with Christian. So, yeah, that was something that popped into my head. And so they met with Dr. Pepper, and she was trying to get them to talk about some of the things that they needed to have resolved, between them, before decision day. And so Christian brought up the real estate idea, and Mitch, he held to his own. And I thought that he brought up, some really good points about, how when you do these refurbishing, of homes, that these houses have been put on the market for people that really can't afford them. So what about houses that aren't flipped and that families could still afford, and then be able, to make the repairs and things, as they need to? So my thing is, can't they compromise? And then if she's fixing up homes in sustainable ways, that they put them on the market so that middle class families can still be able, they won't be priced out of being able to get that home, because of profit and whatever it is, that the kind of materials, where are you getting these materials from? How are they being sourced? So you can say sustainable, but then is it really sustainable at the same time? It still bears investigation. I think with a person like Mitch, there to help her, that they could actually probably be able to work together and, create something that would still be affordable and helpful to the environment and to people, as we're still trying to figure out this whole economic system that we're all trapped in, right now. People got to have a place to live. It has to be affordable. So coming together might be able to be a bridge, for all of that. So I thought Dr. Pepper did a really good job at decoding and asking, like, Mitch, what's the problem? And then Mitch is like, okay, this is the problem. And he did say that, before. What he said about the homes is something that he had already said. So they really, the thing that I felt any potential movement on, was that Dr. Pepper was able to get him to articulate that he's not trying to put the weight of the world on Christian's shoulders, but he also acknowledges that the stuff that he knows and understands about where we're living at and the system that we're living in, it's a lot for people to absorb, especially when they're not trying to be that heavy into it. Like, people don't really want to know what's in the sausage. They just want to be able to enjoy the delicious flavors and have a good day. They don't want all of the minutia of what it takes in order to get that onto their plate. And I get that. It's the same thing, with religion. A lot of people, they say that they believe in this, but then when you actually take this information back to them, then you could just see all kinds of stuff, resistance. They got all kinds of resistance to something that they said that they believed in themselves. So you can really understand it when people, don't even believe in environmentalism, and then you even start whispering about plastics, then they got something to say. So when it comes to this kind of subject, and people like Christian, it kind of reminds me of white liberals and how they will, pontificate and wax poetic about all the plastic that's in the ocean, and it shouldn't be there. But then you say, well, give up your plastic straws or give up your plastic cup. Then, oh my goodness, they about to go into, they need to be admitted into the hospital because their vital signs have plummeted. And they just can't imagine a life living without a plastic cup or a plastic straw to be able to drink their sodas or whatever, out of. I know when I was growing up, we didn't even use straws as much as we use straws now. It's ridiculous, the explosion that has happened and the mindset. I mean, I've talked to people, here in San Francisco that's mad about a paper straw. Well, just drink it without the straw. There's a way to consume this product without having to get a paper straw. I mean, I walk around with my cups and stuff, all the time. So I'm a Mitch when it comes to that. And I wasn't like that before I came to California. So, like I said, I mean, I can see it from both sides. Sometimes, when I forget my cup, because I have my stuff ready to go, and walked out of the house, and next thing you know, dog, I left my thing at home. So what am I going to do? Not get anything, to drink? Go buy a glass container? No. I'll get a plastic cup, and I'll put it, somewhere where it can be, recycled. So it's that level of compromise. But I also appreciated when Mitch was like, yeah, so I'm not going to be in your, in your hindquarters about drinking, from a plastic cup. But it would be nice to be proud that I'm with someone who has that level of environmental consciousness, that they would be willing to make this effort, knowing that, they are my wife, and when they're out, or when we're out, that, we're a united front, and we're, and I'm being represented, that way by my spouse. So I thought that was, an interesting point to make. And Dr. Pepper also, was like, there's no perfect spouse. So with all the relationships and all of the love and all the understanding that Christian has put into all of her relationships, before Mitch, I think this is one of the few times where she's actually the one that's doing the rejecting instead of the one that's being rejected. So, and then I think she's feeding off the women, people who don't have to live with Mitch. And for Alexis and Justin, when they're commenting toward the end of the episode, they're saying that Mitch has dirty feet. I actually looked, if you look at that clip with Mitch in the bed during the honeymoon, when he and Christian are getting ready to go to bed, his feet look the same that they looked in the last few, episodes. And what that is telling me, the possibility, of that is that he doesn't, he doesn't debride his feet. He doesn't exfoliate. And when you don't exfoliate, the dead skin that builds up around your feet, it takes on that dirt. And it takes on that. So you can wash your feet. Like, say he's in the shower and he's just taking a bar of soap, and he's just, doing it, with the either the soap bar itself, or with the liquid soap, or with, like just a regular wash rag, and he's not sitting there scrubbing his feet, then the skin is not going to come off. You actually have to exfoliate. And he could do that on the beach for free. He could just go there and just rub his feet, together in the sand. Or he could take the sand, especially after he comes off of surfing, and he could take that sand and use it as an exfoliant, for his feet. So he doesn't even have to buy anything. But Mitch is like a dude, and dudes don't think about that. That's why dudes have skid marks in their underwear. So everybody who thinks that, he is disgusting, but he doesn't, because he doesn't exfoliate his feet, need to be equally as disgusted with dudes that have skid marks in their underwear. I know I would never live with a dude that can't wipe your butt. And I grew up looking at skid marks in underwear. Okay? So I know that they out there. I don't hear discussions about it. But to me, that's, I think him not exfoliating his feet is minor compared to skid marks, in underwear. And my grandmother stayed married to my granddaddy until she died. And so did my mother. So there you go. I'm just saying, okay? What else? Social justice. Oh, okay. He was saying that the intersection between social justice and, flipping houses has a whole lot of stuff, going on, with it. And he talked about the working families, versus non-flip houses. And then he said about the darkness. And then he was like, a lot of people don't want to have to talk about the consequences, of our actions. And I'm going to segue, here with the whole Devon Franklin, conversation and darkness versus right and wrong, and with Ben Morgan. This is like a cacophony of stuff that comes down to the consequences of our actions. So, Mitch, when you bring up stuff that you say is really small, but is a sensitive subject to your wife, and then instead of talking to her about it, you let her sister, have her say, in it, then this anger that's coming out of her is a consequence of your actions. Either it's important or it's not important. And same thing, with Devon Franklin talking to Alexis and Justin. People told Devon Franklin not to get married to Megan Good. This man swore up and down that he knows the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Megan, she can know Jesus. I'm not saying that she don't know the Lord, because I was out in the street hanging off as many chandeliers as I possibly could, find. And that still doesn't excuse marrying someone who is backstroking in sin just because they can have a conversation with you about Jesus. He, with his own list of people that he wasn't interested in getting married to, one of the first ones was an actress. And there was nothing about Megan as a person that I see that should have made him say that she was worth scratching that off of his list. So I have to question his judgment. I do agree with some of the things that he was saying to Justin about, like, you can't let your fear of losing her turn you into somebody who's trying to put a rope on her and say, well, you can't go here, you can't go there, you can't do this, and you can't do that. Because this is not working, number one. And then number two, it's going to branch off into other stuff. So if she going to the gym and she's starting to slam down and she's starting to look good and she's starting to do this, that, and the third, then you're going to have a problem with her going to the gym. If she start going to church and she really start getting into it and she's like, baby, come on over here, let's go to church together. It's like, well, why you got to be in church 7 days a week? Ain't once a week, enough? I can hear that coming out of his mouth, because whether it's in the gym, whether it's at the club, or whether it's at the church, or whether it's on the basketball court, there's a joker lurking in all of them spaces that could take her from him. So where she actually goes is not the problem. It's not the root of the problem. The root of the problem is his fear that if she's engaged in something and she's in an environment where somebody else can take her attention, then he's trying to combat that, but he's doing it, in the wrong way. So I thought that was, really interesting. And part of what he was asking them toward the end of the show was asking Alexis, can you see what the situation is? You see this Joker is floundering. So is there any way for you to be able to meet him halfway and trying to get this whole sex thing, together? And she said that, yeah, she understood that. She just kind of wanted him to have some more time to kind of do his man show, for her, so that, she can meet him, on that plane. And I thought that was interesting. But like I said, even with Alexis, I see her with the Christian cross, around her neck. And I actually, for the most part, have really appreciated, her conversation. My thing is, though, where are you? What does the Bible say about the relationship, between husband and wife? And what does it say about the role of women and of men in traditional spaces? If Christianity is your jam, then what does it say? Your Christians got this whole thing that they say this is the man's role, this is the woman's role. So if that's true for you, Christian, then how does that work? Because I think that was part of the thing that happened with Devon and Megan as well, is that these gender roles, he wanted a wife who wanted children, and Megan is a career woman. So those two things, don't go together. But the Lord said that he put man and woman together so that you could be fruitful and multiply. This is the part of the deal, and this is something that you should have talked about, before y'all even got married, to each other. I know I was one that was scratching. It's on my other channel, but I'll do a mini story time about this. I met one of his aunts, the one that's the darkest one. I think her name is Ida. I'm not sure, but if you ever look at the picture, she's the one that's the darkest one. And I went to Seventh-day Adventist Church when I was still a Christian, searching for the Lord. And she was the one that told me that Devon and Megan had got married. And I was looking at her like, Megan who? And she was like, Megan Good. I was like, wait a minute, you talking about the actress Megan Good? And she was like, yeah. And she considered Devon to be high priest material. Child, the chuckles that I get off of that all these years later, watching him be this stupid. Okay. So that was story time. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to take Christians seriously. You know how I feel about Cal. I don't even call it, I took the past off that thing, and I really actually appreciate him for not bringing, Jesus up into, the show. I'm glad it's free of that. I just wish that they would have no Christian connotation to it, whatsoever. I'm kind of with Miguel, on that. And I think that Lindy is still kind of conflicted with her Christian mess. She'll flip-flop, with her stuff too. And I have a whole nother conversation about her and her thirst to be verbally abusive, to her husband. I don't even know where she's getting that from. If she says that she's gotten away with it in the past, then I don't know if I believe her, because she said that the relationship she was in with Miguel was the healthiest one she's ever had. So, I don't know. Was she the one that was doing the breaking up, or was she the one who was being broken up with, or was it a 50-50? I'm not sure. I just know that her thirst to yell and be verbally inappropriate is concerning to me, and it should be concerning, to Miguel, as well. So the Christian energy is something I wish Married at First Sight would do something with, because it's toxic, it's confusing, and I think it's unnecessary. And then on the viewership side of Christianity, I want to put this in, is that most of the people I've seen review this show are black. And I would bet that 99% of them consider themselves to be Christian. And from these past two seasons, from 14 and then now 15, I'm seeing a level of comfort with lies and deception that should not be from people who swear that they worship and follow the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. It's disgusting. And, especially take Ben. This joker has sat here multiple times. The first time he did it and the second time he did it, had told people that he did it. He was wrong when he did it. And all I saw on Twitter was people talk about how amazing and wonderful Ben is and how he deserves to have, the world. And I'm like, what world? What world are you talking about? The world where he gets to humiliate and talk about his wife in a way that's not true, then turn around and admit that he was vindictive and backstabbing? What world? What world does this man deserve to have love right now? I don't even understand that. It's just, really confusing to me. Same thing with Stasha and Nate. Stasha got what? She got that written on her arm. What is it? Something, walk by faith, not by sight. Girl. Look, I'm just saying, these are the kind of things that I'm looking at with Christians and Christianity, and it just shows me the level of sickness that's going on. Because I remember growing up, I grew up in the rural South in Alabama, and black people stayed in my face telling me and I say truth in quotes. I got air quotes as I'm saying truth about myself. I bet you if I showed up down there today, they would still be talking about stuff that they saw me doing back when I was in high school. With all the stuff that they have experienced since high school, they would still typecast you and hold you back in a certain spot that they want you to stay in. My brother did it, and I know the rest of them jokers down there, they would be willing to do it too until I have something to say to them. Because the person I am today has way more to be able to respond back to them than the person I was when I was in high school. I was too stupid when I was in high school to know how to communicate with them. But I bet you I get every last one of them out of my face today when I wasn't able to do it then. So the hypocrisy of religion is just, it knocks me out this episode. And I just really wanted to, be able to say something, about it. Because I'm sure that there's still going to be people hanging on the bend by the time we get to the reunion. I'm sure there are going to be people still talking about Alexis when we get to the reunion. I'm sure that there are going to be Morgan haters by the time we still get, to the reunion. I'm sure people are going to be, ready to dump, a whole bucket of feces all over Mitch's head and just excuse, Christian and all her mess, that she got going on by the time we get, to the reunion. And so, I want to be able to say that because, like I said, this episode just did something to me, with it. I stopped being a Christian in 2013. So, you can meet me over at my other channel to hear, what I have to say, about that and to, hear my testimony and this, that, and the third. Okay, so we finished with Christian and Mitch and the consequences of Mitch's actions. Okay, so this is another thing that lets me know that Christian is already annoyed with Mitch. I actually did appreciate her question to him, though. Is when he was eating them noodles. He was annoying, and she was annoyed with him. And she asked him, she said, have you always eaten this way? And I just never paid attention, to it. And he did have the grace. It seemed like, he was embarrassed. But, I mean, Mitch is a dude. He is Mitch. And I don't think that that's something that she's going to want to listen to. If she's already making faces and doing all this kind of stuff, and they haven't even been married 2 whole months, then she's not going to make it 20 years. It's never going to happen, with her. And I'm sure that she does something, and what she feels about him and them noodles is exactly what he feels about her dog, Luna. And the noises and stuff, that he has to put up with coming out of that dog. And she loved that dog to death, knowing how annoying he can be, to people who don't love him as much, as she does. So I thought that was, something to look at, as well. And so one of the things that I thought that Mitch did well is when he was talking with her and Dr. Pepper, is he asked, well, what does decision day mean to you? And when he, like a nut, said that he wasn't attracted to Christian during the honeymoon, she was like, okay, cousin, yeah, if you can't tell me I love you, then yeah. If you can't, we ain't having sex, then yeah, it's going to be a no for me on decision day. And so he said, is that still a parameter, for you? Because where he is and the way that he is looking at decision day is that if they still have places to go on their journey together, if it's not over, then he's open to wanting to continue, that. And she explained where she was when she said that, and she said no, she wasn't at that same place, and she was more in alignment with where he, is looking, at it. And then in the camera, she was saying that her goal is for them to be in a really solid, good place when they say yes on decision day. And so I can't see that happening. So I'm anticipating that at least she's going to be a no. Because on the promo, and I posted this down there, so you guys, I got one as a short, and then I have one as just a short video. And on that short video, you can see him at the beginning say, tell her that he loves her. And he just wanted her, to know that. And I think on another promo, it's not on this one that I have posted, it's one where he was saying to her that he was scared that they weren't going to make it and that she wasn't, going to want to stay in a relationship with him, and he wants to be able to stay in a relationship. So if Mitch is able to say this kind of stuff, especially like from the honeymoon when Justin was running around telling everybody he was in love with Alexis, and him and Miguel scratching their head like, okay, I don't even understand what that means. For him now to be at a further point in this process, and them being able to openly say, his feelings, to her, and share his fears, with her. I thought that was, interesting. So it'd be nice to kind of see if production is where production is taking us, on this ride, with Mitch. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that, comes about. And so I think when they were at the table and he was eating noodles and they were talking about the future, and Mitch was like, he kind of gave me the impression of saying that he was holding back. Like, he's not showing her his full Mitch and Mitchisms. And I don't think that's fair to Christian, because he's saying that he wants her to take the makeup off of her face on the exterior, but it's okay for him to fix himself up and create a mask with her about what's going on with him inside. So it should be backwards. He says that he's telling us who Mitch is, but then at that moment, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to sign up for that, Mitch. That's nothing that's pleasing or really, something that somebody would be anxious, or, not anxious, like something that they would be, happy to skip down that trail with you. And her inside, see, if you hit his cat, okay, her inside should be more important to him than her outside. And she should be able to see all of his inside and not have to be surprised once the show, is over. She should be able to know that this is who she's getting. This is what she signed up for when she says yes on decision day. So I think, Mitch, you kind of shaky, with that. Superficial. Yeah, I said that. Yeah, so this was the thing that kind of messed me up too, when she was doing her little rant at the end of the episode. Does anybody find this blindsiding? Yeah, girl, you blindsided him, and it's okay for him to feel, the way that he feels. Just like it's okay for you to feel, the way that you feel. And so, in her little thing, and I have it clipped in the video, and Lifetime also has it. I think they have it on their thing, as well. I think it, they show a spot that I don't show in their clip. So I encourage you guys to go over to Lifetime and check that out. But the one that I did clip has it in there where she's like, oh, so what is he going to do? He's going to make sense, you know. He's going to say something really nice, and then he's going to say something that makes sense. Isn't that what you want? So you want him to say something crazy and say something, that's inappropriate or disrespectful? I don't understand this conversation that you want from him. She said, well, what about actions? Okay, Christian, what about actions? I mean, again, looking at you from the honeymoon to today, you're not entirely congruent. And then Mitch is going to sit there and act like, oh, well, did I say that? Was I complaining, about your makeup and whatever? Mitch, see, that's when I lose patience, with you, Mr. Truth Teller. So that, how you'd have felt about this whole makeup thing the entire time. You haven't changed. But the thing he said he didn't know was that it had gotten around, that this is the way that he had felt, from the beginning. So I think this is part of a defense mechanism that he was trying to kind of put up with, so that, like he said, he didn't seem like he was being a controlling husband, because he didn't want people, to have that idea about him. So yeah, they both kind of disappointed me with their communication this episode, and we'll see, what's going to happen further on down the line. So let's look at Lindy and Miguel. I thought it was funny that they put the baby. Somebody should have came and picked up that baby. They put the baby back outside, and Lindy was like, "Good luck in your future." So anyway, I thought that was funny. But then they went to this activity where they were throwing axes, and Lindy did it. That girl, that was impressive. I was so impressed with her, and I think she got a kick out of being able to do something, better than Miguel. And I thought that he took it well. So that was a good activity for them. But it didn't seem like the conversation afterwards was something positive for her, because and maybe this was what is it? What they call a Jedi mind trick, to kind of bring her down off of her high from beating him. Then he uses this conversation that he knows is going to put her in a bad place. And he was talking about the future and how nothing's guaranteed that they're actually going to make it. And he doesn't want to be in a loveless marriage. So that really upset her. And she said that she thinks he's moving too far ahead. And then that she said that she felt like what he was saying sounded like a threat. Maybe like he's telling her, hey, don't be too comfortable in this love, because, it could change. And if it changes, then, I'm out the door kind of situation. And she just didn't appreciate, his communication around that. And so he met up with her friend. And I thought that her friend was kind of, I thought that she was being truthful. It still felt like some backhanded compliments, because she'd say how easy it is, to hang around Lindy. But then she also was like, well, she could be negative. And she's told him about, I think it was a trip to Costa Rica. And then that's when she found out about Hangry Lindy. And Miguel said he hadn't seen Hangry Lindy. And, he was wondering if it was because he keeps her fed, all the time. And her friend was like, yeah, well, her being easy to be around, that was why we became friends, so quickly. And then she kind of made like this. I could see it as a dig because she was like, she's easy to be around most of the time. So I don't know how helpful that information is, for a person like Miguel, who already sees negativity in Lindy's conversation when sometimes I think she's just expressing herself. Like when she was looking at the wedding pictures, I think she was just expressing herself. But he took that expression as negativity when he was in a positive space. So I don't know. And I can also see Lindy being one of those kind of people who say something negative and then turn around and try to mask it with a laugh or say, oh, I was just kidding, when they're not really just kidding. So I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll see more of Lindy because the promos are telling us that she's really trying to increase her. You haven't seen the worst of me yet, Miguel. You're not ready for this, Miguel. Kind of craziness that she got going on. I don't know why she's so thirsty to show him her 10. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think we saw her at about a 7 or an 8 when she was crying about that insurance, and that wasn't even pretty. So if she gets to a full 10, then I think Miguel is going to be like, yeah, cousin, thank you for these 2 months, but no, I'm going to have to continue on my journey, for love. I can just see that, and I can't be mad at Miguel because I'm not going to be verbally abused by anybody. I'm not trying to, be verbally abusive to people. That's not my goal. And I'm not going to just sit there and just let somebody just say whatever they're going to say to me and then think that it's going to be okay. No, it's not. You better really think before whatever comes from between your lips, because it's going to impact, how I'm going to be able to respond, to you. And the quieter I am, the worse it's going to be. You actually really want me to be verbal because, yeah, if I'm just looking at you and I don't have nothing to say, that's bad. Yeah, that's not positive. So they met with Pastor Cal, and Miguel talked about McGinty and how Lindy failed to rise up to the occasion. And it was what I actually thought. Lindy said that Miguel was the one that took care of the baby, most of the time. But he didn't seem like it was something that that bothered him. I think her response to the baby crying and, not being able to get sleep and whatever else, other complications that showed up that we weren't privy to, I think he was looking at her reaction to all of that made him feel whatever it is, not the fact that she wasn't as hands-on as he wanted to be. And so Cal asked Lindy, has Miguel seen the worst? And she said, no, it's a 4.5. So he said, well, what's the worst that you've ever seen yourself at? A 10? And she said, yeah, a 10. And he was like, well, how often? And she said, maybe twice in her life. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that she can't, because they was talking about hangry Lindy when she told them about the wedding. And her friend, all these weeks later, still talking about hangry Lindy. So I see hangry Lindy as a 10. That's how special she is when she gets to that point. And I could see her turning to Miguel and just becoming a malevolent, hissing something with crazy eyes and, just the most ungodly conversation coming straight out of her mouth. I see that, and I would call that a 10. And so Miguel thinks that the negativity that he's seen from her can be a pattern, and it's something that he actually wants to try and put skills there so that they can do something to break that up. And so Cal asked him, can you live with her normal? And my answer to that is no. If she wants to be verbally abusive to him, Yeah, I can't see Miguel putting up, with that, and he shouldn't. So, Justin and Alexis, I remember them. Okay, Justin talks to her friend, and her friend really just kind of sits there and listens to Justin. So I listen to Justin talk about the dog still, and her friend was like, "Okay, I didn't even know this dog was still a topic, of conversation, for you guys. I thought you had moved on, from that." And so he talks about he needs to do better with his tone when he's talking to her, that he doesn't need to be cursing at her, and he wants to stop because if they do have children, then he doesn't want their children to be exposed to that kind of conversation. And Will says that he thinks that Alexis actually really wants to be in the marriage, but that she's scared. That he thinks that they're both scared, and that the good is good, but then the bad is amplified because of their fear, and really just because of the pressure and the stress of the experiment, that they're involved in. But I thought that he overall was a good sounding board for Justin, that he allowed him to speak, and he felt like he was being understood. So he um, communicated back to Justin what he heard Justin saying, and I thought that gave Justin an opportunity to really be free in his communication. And like I said, they were simpatico. So who did they? Oh, they met with Devon, and so Devon was trying to encourage Justin, like I said, earlier, to kind of reframe, his thinking, and cut his wife, some slack. So about her activities and be supportive, I say, and I'm sure he probably did too, to come up, with the activities. So he asked Alexis, how does she feel? And she said that she felt smothered. And he said, well, what does freedom, what does that look like, for you? What is freedom and fun? And she said doing stuff, with her husband. And she gave like a list of things, and extreme sports was one of them. And Devon asked Justin, did he like extreme sports? And he was like, mm-hmm. And knowing that basketball is about the most extreme thing that Justin can do. Because I'm sure Alexis was remembering him flying his kite, and that is not extreme at all. And it's not fun for her. It was something fun for him. So when is he going to do something, that's fun, for her? I'm sure she wouldn't mind, what is it, parasailing, or even skydiving. I can see Alexis skydiving. So I can't see Justin, skydiving. That's extreme, Justin. That's extreme sports. So when you sign up to stuff like that, so this kind of reminds me of Christian. Again, on the honeymoon night. Oh, yeah, no, I'll do this. And no, you're going to get the real Christian. You're just going to have to settle for the real Christian. So then when Alexis comes up and she's like, baby, well, I made us a date for us to go bungee jumping. You're going to have to be like, okay, well, what time? And how far is it? So we can make sure that we get over there, because I want to have this experience, with you. It ain't going to be no crying and, my back hurt or my knee and I hurt my ankle, none of that, Justin. You're going to have to step up to that level of plate, and you're just going to have to eat whatever it is that you made sure that you put on it. So don't go complaining, to your brother or whoever, about it, because you sat here on national TV and validated that this is something that you said that you were interested, in doing. So be careful that you don't let your mouth write checks that your ass cannot cash. Just saying. So when they were toward the end of the episode, they were talking. He said that ultimately what I heard is that they are not confident about decision day. And so for Alexis, her thing is, if you don't have that level of confidence, then just say that you want a divorce. Because if I deserve to be the obvious choice. And if I'm not the obvious choice, then please choose to be divorced. And so I did put up a clip, like I promised, that was showing when they did the blindfold game. And she was saying to him that if you don't, if I can't find love with you, then I'm going to find it, with somebody. And it kind of took me back to that. They mirrored each other because her thing is, this is what I feel like I'm worth. And if this worth is not going to be of that level of value to you, then I'm sure it's going to be of value, to somebody at some time. And that's not always true, Alexis. I mean, I actually grew up during a better time when black men and women could actually talk and play and laugh and just enjoy, each other. And it's only gotten worse, sister. So you can't assume that you're going to find better than Justin. You probably find different than Justin. And you probably find something that you could live with better than with Justin in certain areas. But it's always going to be. It's just like what Dr. Pepper was saying to Christian. There is no perfect. So Justin cry all the time. You get with a joker that don't cry at all. You know what I'm saying? It's always something that's out there that you're going to be whining on the phone, talking about, oh, well, this, that, and the third. So just be balanced and be aware. I liked what Devon had to say to Justin as well, is that the issues that you're having today with her, if you don't do something to resolve them or learn from them, then it's just going to show up again and again and again and again and again. And I'll say the same thing, for Devon Franklin. Next woman, that show up, with you. She could be straight out of that church. She could be straight out of the SDA church. And she could still be a level of problematic that, Megan wasn't. And she could be a level of better that, vice versa. So just because she coming out of that church doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be happy trails and, rainbows and butterflies, and this, if he decides, to get married, again. But I thought that they, at the end of the episode, when they were talking to the camera together, that they were really comfortable, with each other. And I was sad for Justin at the end when he felt the need to be exuberant in his conversation. Even though Alexis, she did her honeymoon laugh. That was the Alexis that I heard on the honeymoon. That laugh that she did, I was really interested as to where it came from. They seemed like they were in a good place, especially since they talk about other people and calling Mitch, talking about he got dirty feet. Justin, we don't want to talk about people's deficiencies because Mitch got plenty of them. And you got plenty of them too. Just saying. One of the things that Devon Franklin said to them is that when people are not having sex in a marriage, that there's a power imbalance. And from that, Alexis was saying that she needs a dominant man in the bedroom because she's working off stress. She's working off life, and she wants to connect to some energy that's going to take her and put her in that womanly space that she needs to be in. She needs to know that she's got this level of power that she's working with, and it's doing that kind of healing for her that needs to get done. And Justin just sounds really weak. Oh, well, I can't be dominant, but, I just need to know. And then Mitch is like, well, that she is, reciprocating. Well, yeah, no, I just need to know that she's feeling the same way. This is the time when Justin don't listen to himself. And that's when he gets in trouble. Because Alexis is listening to everything coming out of his mouth. And when he's incongruent, just like he doesn't like it when he sees her incongruency, she doesn't like it when she sees it in him, either. So let's look at Stacia and Nate. So Sasha, they ta- she talks to Nate's friends, and they really are trying to juice him up. Oh yeah, well he ain't never felt for nobody the way that he feel for you. I've been knowing this joker 14, 15 years. Yeah, you just got him strong. You got him twisted. And she's like, wow, you in your 30s and you ain't never been in love, with anybody. You never told them, that you love them. Not even once. So that was questionable to her. And she actually asked them, some really decent questions. She's like, well, if I'm here and he's here, then where is this balance? How can we get him here and then me here? How can we flip this so that we're both, you know, loving, learning, growing, loving, learning, doing this whole gyration of learning and togetherness without it being just one side or the other. And she gave and flipped it around. Well, what if it was me that was where he is and then he is where I am? Then how does that work? Where's the balance, in that as well? Or how would he feel, being in that situation? And I didn't hear an adequate, answer coming from them. So I didn't think that was like, from what I saw, I didn't see it as being the most productive, conversation. Looking at Nate talking to her friends, one of the things that they said to the camera was that if Nate can't find his way to an I love you, then that's going to put some stress on his relationship with Stasia, because she's going to get to a point that's like, okay, well, like he did when he was like, okay, I'm doing all of this and I'm trying to figure out where's his therapy. Because if Nate was actually in therapy the way that Ben said he is, then some of this stuff he'd be able to talk to with the therapist. And I'm sure Stasia would even come to therapy with him, some sessions, that if this is a conversation that they need to have in a safe place and prepare to get away from the experts. So now you're bringing these kind of conversations into an area where you both feel safe, that you're not depending on married at first sight, and you can take this, into your future. So I haven't seen this therapy that Nate was saying, that he's all about. But her friends was like, yeah, he's gonna have to figure that part out. And they were trying to encourage him and give him some directional advice to maybe help him think about things, in a certain way. He said that he was disappointed to find out that she had cheated before, and that revelation triggered him because of his own insecurities about being hurt when he's, so invested, emotionally. And so he said that, what is it? He's biased. He said that he is biased in his opinion about her now because of what she revealed. And I remember when she was with and talking to Pastor Cal and him, she was like, well, if this is kind of, reaction that I'm going to get from him, then why am I going to be vulnerable and tell him, things about my past that really don't have anything to do with who I am, today, as far as, I'm not a cheater. Just because that was something that I participated in at one point in my life doesn't mean that this is something that I'm still interested in participating in. And so, if there's something, about her life that she feels that he might judge her for, then why should she share that with him if this is the response, that he's gonna, give? And so Dr. Cal asked him, why does he feel that he needs to hear all her deepest, darkest, secrets? Because I'm sure he hasn't told her everything. All the chandeliers he done hung off of and stuff he's done, I'm sure he hasn't discussed, everything with her. And when he went admitting that he was selling knockoff products, to people, as a businesswoman who never felt the need to have to go that route into business, she hasn't displayed that level of judgment to him. As a matter of fact, she's told him, "I love you," and he hasn't said that, to her. He said, I can see myself falling in love with you. I feel like I'm falling in love with you," but he hasn't done the whole "I love you," thing to her. So we'll see how that. And the other good advice that I thought that her friends gave to him is that he really needs to take that effort to speak her love language and find out, what that is. So that's going to help them to be able to grow their relationship. And I think be able to help her allow him his space to grow if she knows that this is the kind of effort, that he's putting out. Even though he hasn't said the words, "I love you," his actions are showing her that he loves her. And so she said to his friends too, that she doesn't feel like when the experts are giving him advice, that he actually wants to take it. So that kind of brings me back to Therapy Nate. Where is Therapy Nate? Because you're going to need to be able to do this with this woman. You've got too much stuff unresolved within your own self that you're going to need some help with, whether you're with Stacia or whether you're with somebody else. This is something that you're going to have to deal with because it's going to come up again and again and again. Same thing, Devon Franklin, said to Justin. And so she said that she didn't want to be in a loveless marriage. So I thought that was something to note. And so when we're looking at the conversation with Dr. Cal, I call him Dr. Cal because he does have a doctorate degree. He asked Nate, he said, "Have you felt like you loved her and you wanted to say it, but then you stopped yourself?" And he said, "Yeah." So he tried to dig deeper and try to figure out, well, where is this coming from? He was like, "Has somebody cheated on you?" He was like, "No." And I think he asked him if he had cheated on someone, and he said no. And so that's when he asked Stacia, the questions, and, then Judge Nate, decided he wanted to make an appearance. So we'll see what happens, with them. I'm wondering, because he was saying too that he felt like the hurt that he sees, in her, he thinks that when it kind of comes and bubbles up, that it negatively affects the trust in the relationship. So I thought that was noteworthy, and that they're learning how to communicate, with each other. And her friends were warning him that that's just, Stacia, if she sees something and she wants to get straight down to the nitty gritty, then that's, the kind of personality that she is. And it's something that he's going to have to learn how to work with. And so at the end, we are at Ben and Morgan. And the only thing I have for them is that they had decision day. I thought that ultimately Ben really wants a wife and some children. And I don't think he saw that coming out of Morgan. I think he was intimidated, by her, especially with all her talk about the Muay Thai and that she done broke her friend's tooth. See, Morgan, you don't realize all this. You are proud about your Muay Thai abilities, and you done scared your husband away with that craziness. And so, and I think ultimately, it just boiled down to a lack of respect. And with the climate that's watching Married at First Sight today, he'll be able to get away with it. Probably be able to find him a wife and go on and live, a regular life. Even if he doesn't stay, in therapy, I hope he does. He says that he feels like his mom is going to be there, even if she's disappointed in him. He expects his dad to stick his foot, up his butt, because that's just the relationship, that he has with his parent. And Morgan, I just thought that Ben was a lemon. I mean, he sat there on the honeymoon talking about we got to tell the truth from the beginning. We got to be 100. We got to do this. And everything he sat there and said to her on the beach, he turned around and did the complete opposite. And so I can't respect, what he was about. And I thought that the experts made a bad decision by putting him, on the show. And I have already expressed that, I think a lot of these people just, aren't ready to be in a marriage. So I wanted to do this today because I'm going to be unavailable tomorrow, and I didn't want to be off schedule. And so I will be posting some more stuff after the show tomorrow night. And until the next video.